Macmillan Audio presents You've Got to Be Believed to Be Heard, the complete book of speaking in business and in life. Read for you by the author.
Introduction. A leader put to the test. The events of September 11th, 2001 could not have been worse. The terrorist attacks were seared in the hearts of Americans because we saw them happen in immediate color. But the aftermath of fear, terror, and suspicion could have been worse, much worse, and communication made the difference. It was 8 months into the presidency of George W. Bush. Mr. Bush was known primarily as a master of mangled syntax who had eked out a win in the narrowest election in history. He ran neck and neck with opponent Al Gore, a notoriously dull, dry speechmaker. As communicators, Gore was no Bill Clinton and Bush was no Ronald Reagan. On the evening of the attacks, President Bush spoke to the American people from the White House. "These acts of mass murder," he said, "were intended to frighten our nation into chaos and retreat. But they have failed. Our country is strong. A great people has been moved to defend a great nation. None of us will ever forget this day, yet we go forward to defend freedom and all that is good and just in our world." As important as the words he spoke was his behavior. Eyes steady, jaw resolute, shoulders firm. This was not the campaigner we had seen months before. This was a leader who was authentic. The speeches President Bush delivered that day gave the American people the sense that this man was ready to lead. 3 days later, Friday, September 14th, 2001, President Bush went to Washington Cathedral and gave what many consider the most eloquent speech of his presidency. He began in Lincoln-esque form with words worthy of the Gettysburg Address. "We are here in the middle hour of our grief," he said. "So many have suffered so great a loss, and today we express our nation's sorrow. We come before God to pray for the missing and the dead, and for those who loved them." He spoke as the Commander-in-Chief, appealing to our resolute strength and unity as Americans. He became America's chaplain, saying, "Grief and tragedy and hatred are only for a time. Goodness, remembrance, and love have no end, and the Lord of life holds all who die and all who mourn." He inspired us with stories, briefly told, to remind us of the heroes of that day. He said, "Inside the World Trade Center, one man who could have saved himself stayed until the end at the side of his quadriplegic friend. A beloved priest died giving the last rites to a firefighter. 2 office workers, finding a disabled stranger, carried her down 68 floors to safety. A group of men drove through the night from Dallas to Washington to bring skin grafts for burned victims." It was a memorable speech, but even more memorable was the speech he gave just a few hours later. He flew to New York and arrived at the sacred ground where the towers had stood. Now, dressed in blue jeans and a brown jacket with an open collar, he was greeted by ironworkers and firemen shouting, "USA! USA!" The president walked and shook hands and shouted encouragement. Then he jumped up onto a fire truck with the help of retired fireman Bob Beckwith, who was working at Ground Zero as an unpaid volunteer. Beckwith was about to climb down, but the president said, "Stay right here," and put his arm around the man. And as the chants of USA died down, someone handed a bullhorn to the president. He said, "I want you all to know that America today is on bended knee in prayer for the people whose lives were lost here, for the workers who work here, for the families who mourn." "I can't hear you," someone in the crowd shouted. "I can hear you," the president shouted back through the bullhorn amid applause and cheers. "The rest of the world hears you, and the people who knocked these buildings down will hear all of us soon." The applause and shouts of USA, USA grew louder, and the president paused until the chanting subsided. "The nation sends its love and compassion to everybody who is here," he concluded. "Thank you for your hard work. Thank you for making the nation proud, and may God bless America." Becoming a president for all.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?